Welcome back for another episode of 217 South Mills.
Brought to you by Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona, Wisconsin.
And Pizza Del Rey, located at 911 North Hastings Way in Eau Claire.
And it is our honor again to have Kevin Steinke back on the podcast and to fill us with his insights. Kevin was a friend of mine since we're both 7th grade. He played football at Bowling Green, Ohio, and has been kind of a part of our lives since then. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Think about, though, I think the viewers don't understand. So transport yourself back to, end of your sophomore year. How did you get through the summer? How did a typical college football player get through? You got your apartment money, right? You roomed with, I'll tell you the Bowling Green experience, and I'm sure it's similar to you guys. That's how the show started. But you live with 4 other teammates, 5 guys in an apartment. And if I remember, I think I got a check of like $5,800. So that $5,800 would have to last me a semester.
Oh, okay. I was just about to call bullshit. I was like, what the hell?
You remember your housing money.
But you said semester. We got paid monthly. And I was like, $5,800. Like, I was just about to decommit from Wisconsin to go to Bowling Green and we're getting $5,800 a month.
Yes.
Like, holy shit.
Okay. So semester. So then every player got.
Were you guys able to manage that for the semester?
Well, you got your housing money and you got your food money, right? So yeah, you had to. I think my check, like my monthly for rent, I think it was like $168, and I remember. You always have that analytical roommate. Here's the water bill. Here's the electric. And Stank, you're stealing my food. So here's your money that you owe me. So you owe me $237. And you paid it, right? But that's how you got through. And I think one of the famous stories that I heard because Wando's, there's a fellow teammate of yours that then he took his money and lived out of his car in his girlfriend's house, right? Tauscher? Isn't that the?
I don't know if he might have moved in with, now I'm trying to think. I'm not sure about that.
I thought I heard that too, the Wando story.
I do know, so talking about apartments, we had a guy, it's not throwing him under the bus, it's his younger brother, Chris Pickett, who roomed with us. Chris came on as a scholarship guy, quit after his first year, just didn't have the love for football, became a lawyer. But while we were in school, his younger brother graduated from high school. We moved him into a closet, a coat closet. We gave him a single mattress that fit inside the coat closet. It touched wall to wall. And I think we still hung stuff in the closet. And he slept underneath it, but we made him, now we evened it out by 5. He was trying to negotiate. He should only pay half of 1/5, but we're like, no, you pay 1/5 the rent.
Absolutely.
Like, you're staying.
The basement. I mean, if you had a basement, that's 3 players right there.
I don't know if we had to go in our basement.
Yeah, we had a basement.
I don't know if I was in it more than once.
We had a bat problem. If you recall, I'm not going to that. I was down there one time and there was bats. I'm like, I've never ever. It ended up being basically a place for cardboard and stuff we didn't want. Ended up just in the basement, but
and great house parties. I mean, did you guys?
I think we only really had 2 big ones.
Really?
Right? Like where we had the smaller cookouts in the back. Like when I say almost every week, we had probably 10 or 12 people over. But then we had 2 where we had like multiple barrels and stuff like that. Our joke was we had a friend named Danny Heatley, the hockey player. We had a half a podcast on him early on. He was coming over our place for probably like 6 weeks straight after football games. Me, him, and Joe would be on the couch. And finally, we said to him the one night, and we're having a great time with him. Good stories.
Fun to hang out with.
And we look at him and we're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Danny. We're like, yeah, but are you an athlete? Like, we literally went through the whole stuff. We're like, are you an athlete at Wisconsin?
Right.
He's like, yeah. And now I'm racking my head like, is he a walk-on that I don't remember? Is he a freshman? Whatever. And we're like, what sport do you play? And he goes, hockey. And we're like, are you any good at it? He goes, yeah, I'm all right. And then I think one of us said, like, well, hockey players get drafted out of high school. Like, did you have any luck with the draft? He's like, I did okay with it. And we're like, where'd you go? And I think he was like 2nd overall or whatever. I think he was the Hobie Grant, like the Heisman for hockey. And we're just like, you've been coming here this whole time? And we're like, why do you come here? And he's like, well, I just like it. Nobody knows me here. And I just hang out with you 2 and I have a good time with you. So literally it was weeks upon weeks that we, and I never took him up on, me and him had an agreement that we were going to trade jerseys, which we never did. So we still need to trying years later.
But after that, too, we also said, okay, from this point on, you're also going to contribute to the alcohol fund.
Exactly.
This drinking for free at our house bullshit is going to come to an end, Mr. Second overall.
But, at Bowling Green, I'll tell you a side story. I mean, we got to know our hockey players right away because there's a reason. When we were 18-year-olds, they were 21 because they played the juniors, and they obviously at 21 they could buy the alcohol, so you became friends with them real fast.
Well, I'm going to say moving on because we got a couple things about age coming up here in college. The first thing we hit on with the NFL, the Christmas presents. We got Cam Ward. I told Joe about this morning. Cam Ward, the Miami Hurricanes quarterback, gifted all his O-linemen diamond chains and diamond pendants. Yeah. Just, once again, money. And here's a funny thing, Kev, for you. This is the way the internet reads. So it says for Cam Ward, he has an NIL valuation of $2.1 million. Here's my thing. What the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
Is he making 2.1? Is he making $500,000? Is he making $10 million a year? Nobody knows. Okay. There's money could come in from anywhere. There almost needs to be. Here's the best example. Schools should 1099 the players, and all the money go through the schools to the players. So then the salary cap could actually be a cap. And there's another thing. You said college football semi-pro. It's not. It's above professional because professional sports, they have a salary cap. They have contracts. They have everything that college doesn't have. That's why we keep saying it's the Wild West. There's no rules whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And, we said Ohio State said they're screaming from the rooftops that they paid this year's team $20 million for the roster. I believe it. I actually this weekend saw some reports that's 40 to 60 million. They're saying 20. Who knows? It could be 100 million. Who knows? There's nowhere to look to say, oh, this player got this much, this player got this much, here's the total. Right. It's not out there. Oh. Now maybe that's what the university paid for the team on the field, $20 million, but maybe the quarterback's getting $20 million from somewhere else. Right. So that right there says it's $40 million, and that's not counting any other player. It's insane. But that's a huge gift. I'm sure we're going to see more of that happening with more money in college. I brought up the former UCLA coach, Juan Castillo, is returning to Michigan, where I believe he was offensive assistant at the University of Michigan. The reason I brought this up, one, I think that's a really good addition for the University of Michigan. He's going to be a consultant, I believe, at Michigan. But he had many years coaching in the NFL and the college ranks. I regard him as a really good coach. But my funny story was the year that myself, Casey Rabach, and Dave Costa went to the Combines. I'm not trying to blow smoke, but when you talk about three interior guys together, we were probably the best three that year when you put us all together, not individually. Individually, we were good, but three of us together, we were arguably the best. Our offense coordinator, Brad Childress, we call him Chili, was the O coordinator with the Eagles, and Juan Castillo was the O-line coach. They were the only team at the Combines that would not interview any of the three of us. Really? And the three of us together walked up to the Eagles meeting room, talked with Childress, our former O-coordinator that we won a fucking Rose Bowl for, and said, hey, can we talk to Coach Castillo? And he's like, no, we're good. I'm like, wow. Even if you don't need to draft an O-lineman or you don't want to draft an O-lineman, you don't even want to talk to us. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't even want to shake hands and just in case. Like, what if 3 years down the road, you don't even want to have – it just blew my mind. So that's the dig on him, but I do think it's a good addition for Michigan. All right, Penn State. I know we talked about it a little before, but they are going against Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. And I don't know. I think if what we say stands, I think the NCAA – 217 might get approached by college football to replace the NCAA. I think that's the point we're getting close to because we're saying the truth about what should happen. The NCAA is failing, and I think they're going to come to us and say, hey, we're going to take your word. Either expand the playoffs like you guys talk about. We will take conference champs out. They're not going to be automatic bids, but we're going to make it a 32-team playoff, and we're going to go with Joe's idea to do AI. Mm-hmm. I got a funny suspicion that Boise State is going to lose this game. I think they have the Doak Walker Award winner. They have the best running back in the country. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't think they could hold up against Penn State. And I think Penn State, I'm not saying they're going to shut this kid down,
right?
But he's been the reason they're winning games, and I don't think Penn State's going to allow that to happen.
And Penn State's defense is really freaking good.
They're good.
Okay, let's face it.
And the only team, and I should have brought the record, but the only team Boise played that was worth anything was Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost. And once again, this year's playoff. So another criteria with the playoff is it doesn't matter the score of the game with this current criteria. So if you lose by 100 or you lose by 1, it's a loss. A loss is a loss, a win's a win. So they lost to Oregon, so it doesn't matter that they're the number 1 team in the country. You lost. So that's a negative against you. That's an out.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, they didn't play any impressive teams. I think it's going to be a challenge. They're already a 10.5-point dog. I think that spread is going to grow as it gets closer to game time. I'm thinking it's going to be closer to 13, but we're not going to give too much on the spread until we commit to one of our potential sponsors with the gambling websites. But yeah, that's Penn State. Now, where Kevin brought up age, this was one of the mind-blowing things. The next couple pages we have here are on the transfer portal, some of the information I found, which that is limited as well. But the biggest news that came out this last week was JUCO. JUCO's ruling against the NCAA will make it tougher for high schoolers. Reason being, the JUCO years are not going to count against eligibility.
Right.
And I believe, am I right that JUCO is 2 years? The 2-year max?
For the people out there, do they know what JUCO means?
Very true. I guess junior college, right?
Junior college.
Junior college, yeah. I looked at the U and the O and I was like, and it like sounded out. Yeah, junior college. But yeah, so is it 2 years in junior college?
2 years, yes.
Okay. So they could go 2 years, and like even this article says, like, we could potentially be seeing 24, 25-year-olds, even 26, 27-year-olds if they take because they could still redshirt.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go 2 years JUCO, then get to a Wisconsin redshirt.
Yep.
You could be 4 years out of high school by the time you're actually playing at the
And then you could have a medical if you get hurt.
Very true.
Redshirt.
Very true.
So, yeah, JUCO, I believe that's a game changer, and I think it only hurts high school athletes. I think of one of our games my sophomore year. We played Kansas State, and that's when they made a run for the national championship in '97. And the joke was they just basically took all their offensive linemen and D linemen from junior colleges, and that was their farm system, so to speak. And if you get a 25-year-old college guy, offensive lineman versus a 19-year-old, I'm sorry, there's not even a chance.
No.
I think football. I think basketball. Think about these small teams that you have the one and dones, and I think a small team that can keep a full team of players that are 25, 24-year-old. That's going to be a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Just look at how much you improved from the time you came into college to your 4 years.
Absolutely. Strength, size, like you became a man
and you
while you were there.
You understood the routine of football. You understood how long the season was. You were able to do all the things. You walked in there with having maybe not the exact experience, but you had experience and you knew the expectation. Instead of walking in there all wide-eyed like, oh my gosh, this is my first. I mean, like it's – you grew light years in the first year, 2 years. And by the time you were in your third or fourth year, man, like you had the shit figured out. So, I mean, and that goes into your play. When you're trying to figure out the rest of your freaking life, like how to deal with school and how to deal with studying and all the other crap that comes with it, you already have the foundation for that. Now you can just focus on freaking football and getting better. Like it's huge.
Yeah.
But think of the size, like just weightlifting.
Yes.
In high school, if you're a 300-pound bench press guy, you are probably, would you say 1%, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many of them, but if you are, that's cream of the crop. When you become a 18-year-old freshman in college, you're talking guys that are benching 450 to 500, and you have a few freaks that are over that. Squats, you have, I think, a good squat in high school would be what? 400, 450 pounds.
And that's probably, it's probably 1% because the other ones doing 400 aren't going all the way down.
Right. And so when you get to college, like Saquon Barkley, I mean, there's videos of him. I mean, he is squatting 600 pounds. I mean, so when you talk 18-year-old, 4 years of lifting, or now 6 years, you have offensive linemen that are squatting 600. You have bench press 400. You're talking guys that can move people. And they're solid. They're not a freshman saggy belly lineman. You're talking a guy that you see in the street, you run.
Yep.
That's a game changer.
Very true.
So moving on to the portal, here's the interesting things. And once again, just like NIL, just like the money, the portal is very limited with information. It's just like, this is the gold standard right now, and it's hard to find information out there. The biggest thing about it, in our understanding originally was, and I think this is how the portal started, you could enter it at any time. Now there's a window. It's a 20-day window that started December 9th. It closes on December 28th. There's a 10-day window in the spring. And then if there's a coaching change at your school, there's a 30-day window that players get the option to leave if they want to leave. Here's where we've already seen this affect teams with Penn State. We talked about it last episode. The window opened the 9th. I don't know the dates, but it was during the week, this last week prior to Penn State playing SMU, their backup quarterback who plays on offense in multiple packages entered the portal. Mm-hmm. Now, some people say, well, shame on him. That's his fault. He has to reap the bad side of not being a part of this team anymore. But it also affects the team because he's not the third string guy sitting on the bench, just keeping the bench warm.
Right.
It's affecting the coach. It's affecting the players. It's affecting the scheme for the game. Now you're changing your game plan because this kid decided to go in the portal. So it hurts both sides. And I don't have the answer for this. It's the one answer I do have for the portal is there has to be like an age. Two things. One, I believe you can only enter the portal once. And two, you can only remain in the portal so long.
Then what happens?
You're bounced. So I think it's like maybe give them a year in the portal. If you don't you either sign with the school or you're done.
Right.
I mean, right now you could live in the portal. Like I said to you in past episodes, you have 2 years eligibility left. You could technically enter the portal and get picked up by a school. Sure. You don't age out. I mean, there's been 40-some-year-old people that have gone back to college and played kicker. What game was it? The Notre Dame game. I think Notre Dame's kicker who did Notre Dame play? It was either Notre Dame or the team they played. Their kicker was 30 years old. He went to, I think, the Citadel, spent 4 years in the Army, then enrolled in Notre Dame.
Gotcha.
And he's a 30-year-old kicker.
Nice.
There's no age out with the portal or with schools. So, yeah, you can't just – so think about how we already said the portal – back to high school kids. The portal affects high schoolers because why would a college coach want to pick up an 18-year-old, even a 4.5 star? Now there's the 5-star, like unbelievable, the Bryce Underwood is going to change your school. But if you're a half a star below that guy, 4.5 star, really, really good high schooler, why pick him when I could go get a freshman or a sophomore in the portal? I got college tape on him. Everything you just mentioned, he knows the business of college sports. He doesn't need mom and dad waking him up in the morning and making breakfast before he goes to school. He doesn't need to ride to school. He knows how to do the things in college. So that's number one. Number two, now with JUCO getting more years, the only thing that's 100% negative is towards high schoolers. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that's going to get the brunt of this because and we talked about the NCAA adding, I believe it's 20 additional scholarships starting in the year 2025. But I still have not read anything where they earmark that for high school only. So all we said on that episode, all that's going to do is wipe out 20 walk-ons. Mm-hmm. So we said, like, if Wisconsin had 115 guys on the team, 85 scholarships, now you go from 85 to 105. Now you only have, 10 walk-ons. Everybody else is scholarship. So that's just hurting the walk-on kid.
Very true.
So, when you go back to the JUCO, the junior college players, when we played, it was the guys that weren't academically eligible that they couldn't get into, D1 or they couldn't get approved by NCAA. NIL, I mean, when you look at it now, when we were around, it was February, 6th was signing day. Yep. It was huge. It was in the USA Today. Now you have a signing day in November for high school players that are going into college. You have now that NIL where, like Marshall, they had to forfeit their bowl game because the coach leaves and all the players left with them. Yeah. It is just, when you talk Wild West, good for the players, but really it's sad for the fan because when players leave, you get it, attached to somebody. You want to go see somebody play, and then they leave. It's I feel bad.
It's tough. It's not what we were used to. What college sports was for 100 years. Like even Joe and I, even just doing this show, like the amount of research we have to do on the Badgers, the team that we played for. That like 10 years ago, I could tell you the whole starting lineup. I could tell you stats. I could tell you, oh, this guy's going in his junior year. This is what he did last year. Now it's like I don't know. Like everybody's new. Like granted, I know we're getting older. I know we're more removed, but it's like we used to have linemen that played 3 years in a row as starters.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's now. Granted, the one thing with the portal, I think we are pretty solid at Wisconsin with the line, and the portal we're trying to address other needs. But yes, I think we just lost for the Badgers one of our star linebackers just entered the portal. It's like, all right, well, I just learned his name, and boom, now he's gone.
10 years ago, you knew everybody.
Yeah,
I can't tell you one player on Penn State right now. Their name, and I can tell you, I can remember, obviously with when I was getting recruited, Brent Moss and all those great players of the 90s, that you don't get attached to a player anymore. And that's where these big boosters, money, they just won a national championship. If you don't win, they're canning you and trying to find somebody else.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, and it's not good for the player that just wants to, get an education and learn who you are as an 18-year-old and hopefully get a job.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, the last thing we got is the Badgers and talking about the portal. So one thing, the offensive line, as I said, pretty stable. We haven't lost guys, but other positions, they use the word mass exodus with the quarterbacks. I don't know if we have a quarterback on the roster right now. So
we do either.
That's definitely number one we have to do with this portal and with recruiting. We have Jeff Grimes that, like we've heard before, we've heard the story at Wisconsin. He's going to bring in the attitude. He's going to bring back the run game. I mean, time will tell. Hopefully we're recruiting, we're coaching that way. But yeah, it's no guarantee. Just, like we saw with a Fickle, and obviously Fickle's still there, but he was that up-and-coming coach that arguably could have and would have changed it. But then all of a sudden NIL happened. And like we said, it's different coaches coaching NIL teams versus, I believe Fickle was a good coach for development, for developing players and turning them into a good team. Well, now, like we said, teams are turning over. The Badgers, I think we're turning over like 40% of our team.
Yep.
Guys just constantly going in the portal, constantly getting new guys out of the portal. But defensively, often, me and you, we always critique. Obviously, we're biased. We want them to run the ball better. We want the O-line to block better. We want them to protect the quarterback. But defensively, that's over the last 15, 20 years, I think that's been our point. Going against good teams, we need a more solid defense.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go against a top 15 team and not get burned.
Good.
Like talking about, having wins. One of the things we didn't mention with the playoffs was Indiana getting in 11-1. That's where it comes down to who did you play against that you beat? Not so much what your strength of schedule was or what their strength of schedule, but you had 11 wins. That's crazy impressive. But who did you beat in those 11 games? Mm-hmm. Like, look at Wisconsin. I think it was around 2010. We had, I think, 12 wins. We were undefeated going into the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State beat us 52-10. Mm-hmm. So it's now, think if Ohio State didn't make the Big Ten championship and we played Illinois or whoever was on the other side back then, and we win, we're 13-0 going into whatever it was at the time, BCS or whatever. Did we really deserve? Like, we had a cakewalk of a season that season. So I think who you beat has to matter. We even loved Indiana on their run because we know that's traditionally not a team that has a ton of success. But at the end of the day, when you talk playoffs, who did you beat to deserve to be in that game?
So if you're the coach of Wisconsin, right, and you have you get to change everything, and this may be sensitive on your answer, but do you go for a passing attack? Do you establish a running attack? What would you guys do?
I'll jump in. I'll just say I'm biased. I mean, it was like we were born with the run. We lived through the run. We know the run opens up the pass. Mm-hmm. Our argument is that we've talked a lot on this show. I'm not saying evolution of football. You cannot run the ball 60 times a game. That's out of the question. That was the thing of the past. That was our glory days. That has to evolve. You have to be able to throw the ball. But the one difference, and I've noticed this at the college level and at the pro level, and when you talk to guys, you have teams like the Badgers, for instance. You probably don't have a starter out there, maybe not under 6'5", with the tallest guy being 6'7", 6'8", but they're all around 300 to 312 pounds. So they're light guys with that big size. We're pulling centers, guards, and tackles that are getting downfield on DBs. That never would have been seen 25, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's impressive. But then our gripe is you get a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I don't even know if it's a coin toss that we're going to get the first down. Where back in the day, that was a given. Mm-hmm. So I guess you have to give to get. But
do you think you can out-scheme anybody in college football? Meaning, I'm going to get more athletic players, and I'm going to out-scheme the other coach with technology. Versus what you're saying is if you look, I can guarantee if you look at every D1 college roster, every offensive lineman on the average is 6'4" and above. Right? If you're a 6'2" offensive lineman in high school, you're probably not going Big Ten.
Hey, Bill, I'll let you answer this because you're like 6'2" when you played. So if you want to take this one,
do you think you get it?
6'2" and 2/10.
I'll just listen. So you go ahead.
6'2" and 2/10. And granted, that was with the cardboard. At the combines, I duct taped.
You have those arch insoles now.
I had duct tape because I confirmed from the year before that they don't require you to take your socks off. So I duct taped cardboard at my heels. But no, it'd be challenging. I mean, look at Jason Kelsey, who Joe and I regard as arguably one of the best centers that have played in the NFL, and he was did he go right to Cincinnati?
I believe so.
Okay. But that's the anomaly.
And he's athletic. 6'2".
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
He should have been
athletic. He's athletic and strong. Like he's the combination because he is crazy athletic, but he is strong as shit though too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's hitting the Powerball if you're under. I think if you're under 6'4", it's an issue with the big schools.
And I think your arm reach. Nobody ever talks about arm reach, but if you're 6'2" with a 6'5", totally different. Mm-hmm. Yep. I can't tell you the hardest thing of blocking, D linemen. At 6'3", when you go against a guy at 6'7" that's got good leverage, his hands are on your chest before you punch. Mm-hmm. So then you have to arm combat, right? Hand combat. We all get taught the super little tricks, but
Joe's laughing over there because my story where exactly what you said hit home, and this is where I know I don't recall the measurement, but I know I don't have long arms. As an O-lineman or offense player, hands inside. We're playing Georgia in the Outback Bowl, and Richard Seymour, who recently, a couple years ago, got inducted in the NFL Hall of Fame, he gets his hands inside of me, and I'm literally waxing on, waxing off, and I can't talk. I'm like 4 to 6 inches away from him, and I go, Kev, that was the day that began the nose break 3 years later.
Yep.
After that game, I said to myself, I have to bring everybody into me and then lock them back. So I would grab guys and pull them in and then relock them out. But I'd headbutt everybody. So high schoolers, if you're listening, do not do this. I broke many. I think at Wisconsin, every year I cracked the helmet.
See, I can see it right here.
Bay. Yeah.
So the fans, they can't see it, but if you highlight, I can tell that he has short arms. Right there. That's a guaranteed sign right here. If you can't see it, he's got indentations.
That's right. Because you had to headbutt him and bounce him back up.
You got to go underneath them, right? Yep. And hit them hard.
Yeah. And that's the only advantage that you get is being short. You have the leverage automatically. You've got to try and bend.
Did you have a cut right here?
I broke my nose.
Yeah, but what about your indentation of your forehead?
Never had it up top. I did have to get another pad put in.
See?
I think in the Packer helmet, there's.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they had an extra pad or they made this pad bigger, one or the other. But, yeah, I broke it bad my senior year. It just kept smashing. And, yeah, it was a nightmare. I got to the point they were spraying aerosol glue in my nose during games, which was a pain in the ass, to say the least. But
they're trying to pinch it together just to make it.
Well, I thought they were going to suture it. So here's the other. It's not funny, but it's so many years later it's funny. It's the same game Dave shatters his ankle.
Okay.
So I break my nose, and it exploded, and literally I had blood in my eyes. Everything has a tint of red for the rest of the game because blood's just in my eyes. I'm crying during the game because I believe Dave's done. Like, to me, Dave's dead.
Right.
You know, it's just like, he's gone. He's never
He didn't
coming
make
back.
it.
Yeah. I'm in the locker room, and I remember I felt so bad because Mrs. Costa's down there, and I'm hugging her, and I'm crying about Dave. So it's like our second game. We went to triple overtime. We lost. It's Northwestern. I'm crying because of Dave. I'm crying because we lost. Then I realize my blood's getting all over Mrs. Costa's arm. Pull up, and I'm like, I go get this stitched up. And she looks at me and she goes, Billy, I don't know if they're going to be able to stitch that. I go to the doctor. And so I still haven't looked at it. I go to Denny, her trainer, and I go, Denny, like, what's the deal here? Am I getting this stitched up? He goes, you haven't looked in the mirror? I go, no. I go look in the mirror, and it like exploded, and all the skin that came out was just dead. It was black. Denny's like, we got to just cut that off. So I had a hole that was probably it was bigger than a dime and smaller than a nickel on the bridge of my nose for the next 9 games.
So when you talk about that, obviously what hitting with your head, and you guys talk about CTE, and like right now, you know, I know I had over probably, you know, 7 to 10 concussions minimum, you know, at least 4 of them throwing up. I think with the NIL, you know, part of that money needs to go into brain research and at least every 5 years getting checked up. NCAA is not talking about it. The NIL is hiding the CTE money. Right?
Correct. But see, once again, we don't know where the money, like there's no tracking of it. So if you wanted NIL money to go towards other initiatives, one, that money has to be collected to a central system. So like anything going to a Wisconsin player has to go to a fund at the university, which Wisconsin does have a collective. And that's the other thing that you can't get. Like they have a website for the collective, but that's just collective money. So Michigan has a collective, University of Michigan.
What is it? Over $1 billion, right?
I'm sure it's damn near $1 billion. But Bryce Underwood did not get paid out of the collective.
Right.
He got paid from Barstool and from Oracle. Paid him. So you need to pull all that money into one system if that's something, which I don't disagree with. I agree that should be looked into. The NCAA doesn't want to do it because of lawsuits.
See, but that's the difference. I can tell you a MAC school, they need to play a Big Ten school to get that $1 million check. A MAC school will play against any school in the country to get that $1 million game day check. Now, you have last 10 years of the playoffs, SEC and Big Ten has gotten almost all of the money, right? What other conference made it in the last 10 years? I mean, Georgia, that's the SEC. You got your Big Ten. So they got probably prize pool money of $20 million every year that got distributed to your Big Ten and your SEC schools. Your MAC schools, luckily they have MACtion. I don't know if you guys watch that, but that's Tuesday and Wednesday games that they're on ESPN to obviously get some of that revenue generation. Okay, the game has changed, and now with your Big Ten schools and your SEC, you have over 25, 30 teams in those both conferences that are, getting all the money. You don't see that in basketball. You have the ACC when we're growing up was, when you talk North Carolina and Duke, I mean, that's basketball, right?
Yeah.
So when you guys talk about NCAA changing, there has to be a fairness factor. And if it's salary cap, okay, so be it. But I don't see that happening. There's too much money. You're talking billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And I think, I can't remember the individual that said it. He thinks that colleges will end up selling off their rights.
I've heard that.
Can you believe that?
Well, I'll take it even another step. Just because we're going down a road that doesn't have one stop sign on it at all, mm-hmm. I think we're not that far from, like how we say semi-professional or professional or employees, whatever. I think the student is going to get dropped off of the student athlete. Why are we sending them to school? Why are we telling millionaires you have to maintain a C average? We let boys and girls locker rooms. We let amateurs that were amateurs just 6 years ago get paid millions of dollars in a sport that they're not supposed to receive a $20 handshake. Mm-hmm. Why are they going to be, when somebody says, no, it's a business, we need them just like the NFL, going to meetings all day, walkthroughs all day. I think until we start putting stop signs on this road or yield signs or slow down signs, mm-hmm. why not drop school?
Right.
I mean,
basketball players, the one and done. Let's face it. What 3 classes are they taking? They're going to take bowling. They're going to take
basket weaving,
music appreciation,
or
military science.
Military. There you go.
Clap for credit.
Clap for credit.
Yep.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they attend, and then all of a sudden they're not there. They're traveling all over the country making the university money.
Yeah.
And then what happens when they get injured? Do they get that 4-year college? Are they guaranteed that they get to finish school when they get injured? It's a scary, scary world. I'm glad that social media is helping. Like you look at those Cavalier twins. One plays, one doesn't, but they were worth $1.7 million each last year.
Is that the Miami girls?
The Miami girls that transferred from San Jose State.
Yep.
Then you got that Olivia Dunn, who is a gymnast.
Yeah, she's killing it. I saw her. She'll come up on the NIL. I think she was like number 2 behind Shadur Sanders.
Yeah. It's just fun little 15, 30-second clips.
Yeah.
Good for you figuring out how to monetize.
And 217 is moving up the ranks as well. We're going viral, Kevin. We're going viral on some of these clips.
I like it.
Well,
I mean, when Joe gets recruited, you got 2 more years eligibility?
2 more years.
2 more years, yeah.
I'm going to put myself in the transfer
portal. You better use that NIL money to hook us up with jerseys. I want,
I'm going to get you a Klondike bar. I told you that.
Screw the Klondike bar.
They're freaking delicious.
I want a katana. I want a replica jersey of yours. I want Kevin and I want us on the field, like our guy from Michigan. I want us on the field. And I want 50-yard line seats, and I want 5 of them so we could sit with an empty seat on both sides of us.
Okay.
Yeah. But see, when you say that, that's what a booster wants. That's his only prestige.
Yeah.
Let's think about it. I got $1 billion. I want to be closest to the team. What do I get as a booster? Well, you get to get a special coaches meeting. It means you get input on players coming in. Right, it's all that control that, hey, I'm giving you $10 million, you better win. Mm-hmm. Well, every coaching staff is trying to win, right? Every player is trying to win. It's just out of whack.
It is.
And a booster, all he gets is going out on the field, and he can tell all of his friends, "Yeah, I'm on the field. Look at me."
Yep.
Very true.
I agree.
Player gets hurt. I don't care about that player because I'm getting the next person.
Yeah. So it looks more like a business than it does. I mean,
business right off.
And we've been preaching this. College football is a multi-billion-dollar business. It is. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care how you cut it. That's what it is. It's money. It's greed, and that's what's making it makes us watch.
Yeah.
It makes us have an hour podcast about it.
And here's the thing: it always was a business,
right?
Now it's just puking out business and money everywhere.
It was behind the facade of student athletes, going to school, amateur, and now it's just like, you know what? Let's take down that curtain because it's not. This is semi-pro freaking sports, and how much money can we generate in order for us to pay the best players, just like the NFL, just like every other professional sports out there. So
there are guys, and I should have printed this off. There's a kid, not even the Bryce Underwood, or maybe it was Bryce Underwood. So his contract is 3 years, $12 million. They showed a guy. Now, granted, the rookie salary cap lowered NFL players' contracts from the time we were coming out. But Bryce Underwood at 18 in college signed a bigger 3-year deal than a guy that just signed a 3-year contract in the NFL.
That's insane.
He signed like 3 years for like $8.4 million, and Bryce Underwood signed 3 for 12. That's the other thing is the guy in the NFL, that's his only money. And I keep saying that's Bryce Underwood's one contract.
That we know.
He could go out and sign 12 more contracts. Mm-hmm. He could sign $1 million here, $20 million there, $5 million there. There's no stopping it. There's no rule that you're only allowed to sign one contract. There's no rule that he can't agree, oh, I want you to ride around in my Mercedes. Well, give me $5 million and I'll drive your Mercedes with your dealership name on it. Mm-hmm. There's no rules.
Very true.
Did you guys see, on a side note, the Cleveland Browns, they want to move to Brooklyn Park, which is a city just outside of Cleveland. So they have a 10-year-old, maybe 12-year-old stadium that they paid like $1.2 billion for, right? Brand new. Mm-hmm. And now, because they want to get a Super Bowl and they want to get money, they're going to move 20 minutes outside of Cleveland to Brooklyn Park. Wow. And the owner is going to redevelop that whole organization so they can get a World Series, but they can host big events. Yeah. NCAA championship basketball, Super Bowl, all there. And that's all taxpayer money.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Right?
Yeah.
And guess what? He owns a casino. Do you think? No, I got to ask you, Bill.
I'm telling you.
Do you want if you're the owner, do you want the Cleveland Browns to be good? Because everybody's betting you're going to lose, right? You want them. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
If you're the owner of a team and your team is winning, beating the spread, you're ultimately losing.
Mm-hmm.
If $100 million a month is being bet on the Cleveland Browns, I mean, come on. Yeah, there's everybody out here is listening.
Yep.
You don't want them to win. You want them to always lose the spread. So you're
absolutely. You want the house to always make money, and the house always does make money.
Yes,
it's the way of the world. Yep. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. Thanks again for tuning in for another episode of 217 South Mills.
Yeah, we want to thank our sponsors, Cabin Coffee El Tuno, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane. And
Pizza Del Rey, located 911 North Hastings Way in Eau Claire.
And then we also want to thank our guest, Kevin Steinke. Like I said, he's been probably my longest friend since 7th grade at DC Everest. And then obviously him and Bill are friends, but it's always a pleasure to have you on, and it's been too long.
I appreciate it.
Take care.
We've gone a long ways.
Thank you for listening to another episode of 217 South Mills.
If you like what you heard, smash the like and follow buttons on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cabin Coffee El Tuna. Tune in next time, folks.